mad, they high. Thinking the badge is better than having some heart. Okay, look now, look how they run it. They beating white people down just to show us what's coming. Or to show us we nothing. Or to show us we only welcome when singing or balling. Just shut up and dribble. Word, rock, low.
Hey everybody, I'm Carrie Champion. Welcome to We the People. So today we are having a very candid conversation with athletes and artists who want to make sure that you use your voice to vote. Voting is your voice. So we have so many different issues that have happened in this country. It's really, truly unprecedented time. So I'm looking forward to these conversations. I think you'll be educated as well as entertained, but most importantly, informed. We have morethanavote.org, whenweallvote.org, and fairfight.com. Those resources are imperative as we try to change our future.
Yeah, la la.
There's no way that we can talk about hip hop or even the fact that we want to talk about activism, Black voter suppression, without bringing in this guy straight from Port Arthur, Texas. We are talking about Bun B. He is an activist, a scholar, and an all-around gentleman. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Bun, I don't want to start heavy, but I guess I have to because that's where we are in the world today. It's heavy as hell. And when you think about what needs to happen in this country in terms of change, what's the first thing that you think of?
Equality. That's pretty much the first thing that comes to mind, right? Black people need to be seen as equals in this world. You know, we had to fight just to be recognized as a full citizen in this country and not 3/5.
The world is now seeing what we've known for so long in the culture and in the community. The one way that we can fight is obviously voting. Talk to me about what voting means to you.
I hear people all the time talking about one vote doesn't matter and that voting doesn't make a difference. If that's true, why do they work so hard to suppress the Black vote? Because they understand the power of the vote. And so it's time that Black people collectively also understand the power of their vote. And not just on a national level, because a lot of times we only have this conversation every 4 years. People need to be very much involved in their local politics. They need to understand who their elected officials are, where they stand on issues that affect you. And you need to use your vote to either support the ones that care about you and your condition, or to elect people who do. A newer initiative that we're dealing with is educating felons, right? So in the state of Texas, if you're a felon, right, if you've been to jail or to prison, but you're no longer on probation or parole, you have the right to register to vote. Another thing that was just brought to my attention, there's an initiative called Orange, which is happening not just in Houston, but all over the country. If you're in jail currently during pretrial, but you have not been convicted, like you're still in jail waiting for your day in court, you are still eligible to vote.
And you said something so key. They work so hard to hope that we stay uninformed, but more importantly, to suppress the Black vote. If you could do one thing with this message that we're trying to send today about how important voting is, what type of images would you like our people to understand and see when they go to these polls and vote or when they cast their ballots?
I think the images that we've all seen, you know what I'm saying, for decades in this country, if not centuries in this country, we've seen Black people oppressed. We've seen Black people attacked. So every time you look back and you see those old black and white images of people of color being attacked by dogs and people of color being sprayed with hoses, that's what they were fighting for. Back then, they were just fighting for a chance to vote. People like Martin Luther King Jr., people like Malcolm X, these people died to help us be in a position to have the power that we have now, which is to be able to cast a vote and make a decision about the people that have controls over our lives. So, I mean, if you in your own community need a reason to vote, look at a person like George Floyd. If the people in your city are not open to police reform, are not open to having a conversation about defunding the police, are not open to issues concerning economic equality, judicial equality, and racial equality, right? If they're scared to say Black Lives Matter, you have the power to put people in those positions who do believe that Black Lives Matter, who do believe in racial equality, economic equality, judicial equality, right? Who see us as human beings. And if the people in your community don't feel that way, vote them out. It's that simple. It's just vote them out. We don't have enough time to sit around and hope that people change their minds.
Yeah, Bumby, you point out something so important. We have the power. And that is in our vote, and that is with our voice, and that's how we use our voice. I think of where we are right now. People say this is a particular moment, but it is a movement, not just a moment, it is a movement. Why, in your opinion, was it George Floyd's death? Why was that the chosen brutality for people to say, oh my God, Black people are still oppressed in this country, and it is not fair?
I think it's twofold, Carrie. And so many different encounters between people of color and the police, there simply is no proof of what happened in the interaction. And so what happens is in a court of law, it tends to lean towards the policeman's point of view, right? In this case, we saw very clearly what happened. I think the other thing is due to the fact that everyone was at home, basically, during this time period in relation to the coronavirus, you couldn't avoid it, right? It was on every television station. It was on every social media platform. Everywhere you turn, you were constantly hit upside the head with this message. You see in the interaction that this man did nothing to deserve what happened.
That's right. So well said, because if you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't worth it, and he didn't have to lose his life. I think that you touched on something that a lot of people talk about, and that is now defunding the police. That has been such a huge conversation, but there's so many misconceptions around defunding and dismantling. If you will, educate the audience.
All right. So most people, when they hear the term defund the police, they tend to think of, oh, they're going to take away our police department. Nothing could be further from the point. Defunding the police means that in certain communities, even Houston, take for example, we had over $1 billion allocated to our police force. Now, what is that money being used for? Some of that money tends to be allocated towards riot shields, right? Pepper spray, right? That kind of thing. That's only used against the people that fund this budget, right? So why would the people want to supply the police with the means to oppress them? If the police are concerned about the situations in certain communities with a higher crime rate, well, higher crime rates tend to happen in communities where there's not employment opportunities, right? There's not a lot of social services, and people are going to do what they need to do to take care of themselves and their families. When the community has more opportunities for employment, more opportunities for upward mobility, then they tend to be less of a strain on the government. They tend to have a lower crime rate. And because of that, we'll have less need for the police in those communities.
You are passionate about so many different things in terms of making sure that we are holding our leaders accountable. Talk to me about some of the other projects that you're working on.
Well, right now, obviously, being a part of More Than a Vote is essential. We're dealing with primaries in this country right now. And we just want to educate people. We want to inform people because people are tired, they're angry, they're concerned, and they want information and they want action. And so we want to make sure that we give them the right information and lead them in the right direction. And we thank the people that do not look like us for standing with us right now, because it's very important that people who aren't Black be involved. Because if Black people could have gotten rid of racism, we would have done it hundreds of years ago. And so I'm trying to use my voice and my platform just to let people know that if they feel like I do, there's a number of places they can go to enact change in their community. People need to know about how their city council runs. They need to know that they have the ability to speak when city council meets, to let them know that that's not the way that they feel their city needs to be run. Those are not the places that they feel the money of their community needs to be allocated.
And Bubby, even a step further, they can run for office in their local community. They can run for positions. Like, people act like they leave it up to somebody else. If you're upset, it's not hard to get on the school board. It's not hard to be a part of the city council. It really isn't. And depending on how small your town is, you could be a mayor. It's the power is with the people. And we need to just know that that's happening.
Absolutely. And it's always been with the people. You know, if you look at Trayvon Martin's mother, Sabrina Fulton, right? She felt that there was a system of racism and a system of oppression that led to her son's death. And so what did she do? She ran for city council and she was elected to city council. Our own former president, 44, Barack Obama, right, started in the community as an activist, became senator, ran for another elected position and became president of the United States. So don't think that you can't make a difference. You know what I'm saying? You don't need a lot of money. You don't need a lot of power. Your voice is enough to make a difference.
Amen. I feel like I need to go out and run for something. You gave me a rousing speech there, sir. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this. When I talk to my brothers, I have to ask you, as a Black man, how are you doing? Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm good. I have a very strong relationship with God, so prayer definitely works for me. I have children and grandchildren who are watching me, who are encouraged by what I do, and they're proud of me right now, you know, and that's really what matters, you know. The change starts at home. You know, so as long as you have a support system that believes in what you're doing and supports you in what you're doing, you have everything you need to go out there and fight the good fight. And for those that don't, there's a community of people here to help you. So you can go to places like morethanavote.org. There are many different places that will encourage you, inform you, and they will put you with groups of people that feel like you, that are ready to take action. So no one has to go about this alone if they want to do it.
Yeah, yeah, we're stronger together. People have been saying it, but that has much more meaning now that we are in our movement, not just this moment. Bumby, it has been an education, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Keep fighting the good fight.
Keep up the good fight.
Yeah, la.
So our next guest, I have to admit, I'm a fan, but there are so many different people that we could talk to, and I thought it was so imperative that we speak with her. You know her as Molly on the huge, successful show Insecure, HBO's Insecure. She also has a comedy special highlighting her Nigerian roots, and she's an amazing podcaster. Let's welcome in Yvonne Orji, everyone. You have such a beautiful way of making things funny, giving us our medicine with some candy, right? The humor and the healing. You bring all of that to your space. And right now, as you look across this country and how everyone is so broken and so upset, if it's not social injustice, it's the pandemic, it's depression, it's unemployment, the list goes on and on. How are you doing, quite frankly?
You know, I'm rediscovering self in a way that is hard, but necessary, that will lead to ultimate joy. I know it sounds like a lot, but no, I think I personally think that God put all of us on a global timeout. Like we just, America hasn't done as good as other people when it comes to timeouts because everyone else is out playing at recess, and we're still in the principal's office hoping and wishing we can come out. But I think that if we settle into the timeout and really learn the lesson that we're supposed to learn from this season, I think we'll emerge better. We'll learn how to play well with others in more ways than one. And so personally for me, I'm taking this time to learn me in a new way. I feel like I'm being ushered into a new season, and I'm getting still, because sometimes the busy confounds the work that we're supposed to actually be doing. We're busy doing other stuff, but we got work that we need to do on the inside. And I'm leaning into it. I'm like, dang, I thought I was gonna be able to rest like everybody else. And God's like, nah, we got work to do.
You know what? And I think that's what everybody is saying about 2020. It's demanding that we be better. And you said it's a global timeout. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's like everyone sit down, be humble, to quote the great prophet Kendrick Lamar. But no, seriously, sit down and let's reevaluate some things. Let us unearth and shake up the things that we have been trying to hide within ourselves, within our nation. I think America is going through an unraveling right now, a much needed, a much necessary one. And I think all eyes on us, right? There is no, oh, I was on the subway for an hour, so I didn't miss that thing that happened. No, everybody was home. Everybody, was watching when George Floyd died, and everybody, no one could hide it. Everyone was watching when Amy Cooper called the cops. Like, this is a time where it's like, oh, we can't pretend it away. We can't excuse it away. No. It's a global timeout. Sit down, watch, and let's learn. And globally, it's like, hey, we were going business as usual, but it ain't usual no more. Like that's old. Anytime change occurs, it's very uncomfortable. And so right now we're sitting with we're getting we're getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
The minorities, we've been comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that to me explains just the existence for whatever we want to do, how we break into our careers, how we live our lives, how we find ourselves one of the few or one of the first. And that's a lonely road. When you look at, and when you talk about this global timeout, everybody had to pay attention to Amy Cooper. Everyone had to pay attention to George Floyd. How is that helping us as a people, as a country during our global timeout?
I think, well, one, we're not minorities, Carrie. You already know it. It's like these labels that they put on us. It's like the same way of saying like black on black violence. Also, there's no white on white violence. It's branding.
Yeah,
right. It's all branding.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like white people kill white people every single day. So no, there is no black on black violence. And if you say black on black violence, well, then let's brand white on white violence. Like, I watch Investigation Discovery. Ain't too many of us been featured. so, I just even like, but to answer your question, what does that do? I think what everyone expected is what has happened in the past when the world was still open, right? In that, okay, you had everyone from Trayvon Martin to Castillo to Sandra Bland. You had all of these lives lost, and Black people made some noise. We rioted, we got out in the streets, we started the Black Lives Matter movement, all of those things. And then white people kind of just like, oh, let's give them something. And then it's just like, is it over? It's like Oscars so black. Okay, good. We gave some Oscars. Are we good now? Like, are we even? And it's now it's just like, oh no. This is not about like a band-aid. It's like, yo, we might have to amputate the leg a little bit, but it's all right because by amputating the leg, we're gonna save the body. And so I think that's what's happening now. Like, America is realizing, like, oh, Black people aren't just making a little bit of noise. Like, the protests are still out. The conversations are still being had. The change is still being demanded. And I think they're seeing, oh, this is not going no way. And no, it's not, because we need systematic change.
What a beautiful way to explore what is happening and describe our country. We might have to amputate the leg, but that's to save the body. That's what's happening right now. That's beautiful, Yvonne. And to that end, I have to ask you this, because the way that we do that, we use our voice. And our voice right now in this world, in this country, is our vote. And everyone talks about voting and how important it is, but I feel like more than ever, we understand that it's not just for the man in office. It's about your local elections. It's about the mayor. It is about the district attorney, the people who have the power to bring charges against police if police brutality is an issue in your community. If you care about your school district, you can run for the school board. I ask this of you, right? Your parents are from Nigeria. You are Nigerian. You talk about that very lovingly. What does voting mean for you?
I think voting is power. I remember, I became a naturalized citizen back in the 90s when, because I was still a minor, my mom naturalized, and so we were able to do it under her. And just even that power of, like, we are American citizens and all the access that we have by being citizens, one of those accesses and those access to power being voting, it's a big deal. It's a big deal because not only do we have the opportunity to be in this country, but now we can be of the country. We can be of the systems. We can be of the rules. We can be of what it actually affords. But I think, going back to your earlier comment about just the setup of systems, I think we are done a disservice, either it's schools or whatever it is. And I'm not putting teachers on blast. I think teachers do a phenomenal job, but for some reason, we do not, and give them all the raises. I know too many parents who are like, this child of mine, I do love them, but hey, where can I drop them off? And I do think that there is a disservice done because, again, when we talk about them, to your point, we talk about every 4 years. It's important to vote for the presidency. We don't realize, like, oh, snap, we actually can vote about, like, how much our libraries get. It's like small things like that, but they make a big difference.
When you think of voter suppression in this country, what does it look like for you?
It's the systems. When we talk about voter suppression, we also talk about systematic racism, right? It's all the systems that set up. And we've normalized, okay, maybe your job will give you a half day, or maybe, you'll be able to get this luxury. It shouldn't be a luxury. It should be built into the system. It should be built into the fabric of how we vote. But maybe you'll be able to get this luxury in order to enable you to go vote. Think about everything disenfranchised, marginalized Black person has to endure in a day. So in a day, you need to get to work. If something happens to your car, if something happens to your child care, if something happens to, there's so many factors along the way that can send you into a tailspin as an American. And then you add on as a person of color. If you're just trying to get to vote and you already have to go through all of these hurdles and hoops in your everyday life, imagine the one day when your voice really is supposed to matter the most in this country. But then you also see all the times that you tried to have your voice matter, and then it's been shut down, repressed, told it doesn't matter. And then you're kind of like, what's the point?
How do we keep hope though? If I'm I want to I how do we as a people stay hopeful?